All right, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders as draft time is heating up. There's more and more moves that we can look at that teams are making. And when you look deep, I think there's some interesting stuff going on behind the scenes, especially for the Las Vegas Raiders and that ever elusive quarterback situation. Let's get into the article and we can talk more about it on the other side. This is from SI.com. It says it remains to be seen where former Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis fits into the equation after a season-ending leg injury kept him from participating in the pre-draft process. The unfortunate timing hasn't dampened Travis' spirits as he's attacked his rehab and is in a position to be fully healthy by the beginning of summer. Multiple franchises have shown an interest in Travis since his participation at the East-West Shrine Bowl and NFL Combine. He recently had a top 30 visit with the Las Vegas Raiders and has another one scheduled with the Jets before the draft. Nick, I think this is very interesting news. I think Travis is a guy that he was very good in college. He fell off a lot of people's radars, but it's looking like he didn't fall off the Raiders' radar. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one. But before we get there, Raiders fans, in the comments section below, now's the time. Get your predictions in. We're coming quickly on the draft. There's so many scenarios that we have the Raiders, but, I think things settle down. I want to hear what your thoughts are. Where do you think the Raiders are going to be drafting? Where do they trade? Do they stay? Let me know where you think the final resting spot of the first pick for the Raiders is going to be in the comment section below. But Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest under the radar move by the Raiders?
Yeah, so I think what's going on here, and to answer your question, I think they're going to stay where they're at. I think the Minnesota Vikings acquiring the draft capital to leapfrog any potential team to either slot four, I think most likely slot five, where the Chargers currently sit, to pick quarterback four, I think puts the Raiders in an interesting situation. I think the Raiders will try to trade back potentially to maybe get a Penix Jr., but I don't think that's their game plan right now. I think they're going to stay where they are, and this move is kind of sign of that, and maybe get a potential franchise guy later in the draft. I'm thinking maybe early second round, or Travis could maybe fall into the later part of the second round, early third, and the Raiders could then draft him there or trade up to pick him there, depending on how the situation works out. And look, Jordan Travis is a very interesting prospect. There's a lot of things I really like about Travis. I love transfers who are quarterbacks at the college level. It's a sign of being a grown up, right? Imagine being an 18, 19-year-old kid going somewhere playing football and then picking up your entire life, going to another college and being successful. That's a sign of maturity. That's a sign of being a grown up, right? Russell Wilson did that. Joe Burrow did that, right? Those are indicators of a guy who's a grown up, who's been there before, who can handle himself. I love the fact that Jordan Travis started at Louisville, transferred to Florida State, sign of a grown up. But here's the thing I really like. I think it's always kind of misstated. Like, people don't even focus on this too much. I love quarterbacks, and it sounds obvious, that get better as they go through college football. I'm always nervous about guys who have really good sophomore or junior years and then they dip. And people just kind of forget that, right? Caleb Williams dipped last year, quarterback out of USC. Drake May dipped last year, quarterback out of North Carolina. They're great prospects, but that's a concern. You should never dip. You should always be getting better when you're in your early 20s. And that's exactly what Jordan Travis was doing. If you look to his college stats, his first 2 years at Louisville and Florida State, basically didn't play much at all. His first year as a starter at Florida State was not very good. He completed 55% of his passes, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's not ideal. His second year, he stepped up his game considerably, completed 63% of his passes, 15 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. That's solid. And then the past 2 seasons played at a very high level, 64% completion, basically both years, 24 touchdowns 2 years ago, 20 touchdowns this past season, 5 picks 2 years ago, and only 2 interceptions this past season. So again, this is a guy who's getting better, right? And that's an indicator there's something special going on there. And one other point I want to hit on with Jordan Travis, out of sight, out of mind, really has an effect on scouts and analysts and people in the media, right? Because Travis is coming off that broken leg injury, which shouldn't affect his pro ability at all. There's been no reports that it's going to have any lingering effects, but he's not getting a lot of workouts, right? People aren't seeing him. People are seeing Daniels or May or JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix or Penix Jr. or whoever, and they see him and like, oh, they had a good workout, rise up the draft boards. No one's seeing Travis right now. So he's falling back just because he's not actively working out right now. And I think that creates a potential opportunity for a team like the Raiders to scoop him up later in the draft. I think that's why the Raiders brought him in for one of their top 30 visits. Remember, they're only granted 30, so they're very limited. These things are treated like gold by NFL franchises. I think this is a sign the Raiders could be seriously looking to pick up Jordan Travis. And if they did, I think it'd be a great move.
Yeah, Nick, and I want to touch on the injury a little bit and just focus on what happened. Fractured leg, it is bad. I'm sure it's painful, but it really shouldn't affect his opportunities playing going forward. We've seen multiple quarterbacks in this day and age have similar injuries. You think of a guy like Dak Prescott with that horrible broken ankle. He came back, he can still throw the football pretty well. Outside of talent, although I think a guy like Travis probably has a little more talent coming out of the draft than Dak did, but nonetheless, Dak can still throw the football. If you even want to go even crazier, look at what happened to Alex Smith, that whole debacle. He had a horrific leg break injury, multiple setbacks, yet still was able to come back and play at the NFL level for a little while after that. So I think a small fracture in the leg for Jordan Travis, the least of his worries. He's young. I think he's going to come back. And I don't think people should be too tied up on this injury because I don't think it's something that will affect him too much going forward. But I like the fact that the Raiders, like you said, out of sight, out of mind for a little while, it really lowers the radar on a guy like Travis. And he was a top tier talent coming to this draft. If he slides a few rounds and you're able to pick him up a little bit later, I think this is a huge win for the Las Vegas Raiders, even if you get him later in the first round, depending on how the run on quarterbacks go. I think this is a guy that can really be talented and be a great asset. I just feel like a lot of people haven't thought about him at all this offseason. I know until we started talking about this, I didn't really think about him going to any teams either. It's just not that he wasn't a great quarterback. Just kind of like we said, he's been out of sight. You don't think about him. I think this is smart by the Raiders doing their due diligence and picking up on a guy that hopefully they can sneak in and have a super talented quarterback for a bargain of a draft situation.
Yeah, the out of sight, out of mind thing is completely bonkers because I was reading something earlier today about Spencer Rattler, the quarterback coming out of South Carolina. And people are like, is he a hidden gem? And we watched Spencer Rattler play a lot in college, right? We watched him live. He doesn't look like a hidden gem, right? He's not nearly as good as Jordan Travis. And I was thinking that, and I was looking at this story, and I was like, how are people setting Rattlers a hidden gem when Travis was a star the last 2 years at Florida State? And just because we're not seeing him work out at a pro day or a combine, that doesn't mean the guy can't play football anymore. I mean, this is really bonkers here. And again, it creates a potential opportunity for a team like the Raiders to scoop up Travis later in the draft and get themselves a potential franchise quarterback. But I want to go back to the NFL.com scouting profile of Jordan Travis. And when you look at some key sentences here, I think there's signs that there may be something special here in Jordan Travis. So this is directly from the report. In a career marked with challenges, Travis showed the resilience to overcome and finish his career playing his best football. Resilience, overcoming challenges, ending playing his best football. Kind of franchise quarterback stuff right there. He's undersized but has an adequate arm and can help protect himself with his legs. Again, the size thing. Everyone focus on that. Who cares? CJ Stroud's not very big either, right? He had an incredible rookie year. Patrick Mahomes is not a huge individual either. Tom Brady was really skinny. Drew Brees was tiny, right? Undersized doesn't really affect me. I think that's not an important thing to focus on here, but that's a factor the way people are evaluating him, even though he shouldn't. The footwork, here's the report goes on to say, the footwork isn't always great, but he can throw effectively and fairly accurate as an improviser. Okay, if he can throw effectively and accurately, who cares what his footwork's like? All that matters is, does the ball get A to B? Mahomes doesn't have great footwork, right? Josh Allen has terrible footwork, right? Lamar Jackson had questions about his footwork, right? Again, these are all such nitpicky things. It's like people are looking for reasons to ding Jordan Travis for whatever reason, and they're looking for reasons to elevate other quarterbacks. And again, that creates a potential opportunity for teams, smart teams, to maybe get Travis at a big discount in the form of a draft steal. And it looks like the Raiders are being smart here by potentially targeting him. I love this move by Las Vegas.